Well, to put it simply, beavers are just really cool animals because beavers have such unique abilities and good qualities that we can all learn from. They're brave, inventive, hardworking, determined, family-oriented, cooperative, and good-natured. And some say they're a little stubborn and selfish, but hey, I never said they was perfect. And these were all good qualities that I was able to illustrate throughout the story using things that we all understand as humans. Bronson was brave and inventive in trying to build a robot to solve his problems. He stayed determined to achieve his goal of building a dream workshop after his original idea had failed. And by him ultimately staying committed to his family and working hard, he was able to achieve his goal. The Beaver Valley Lodge provided a safe place for all kinds of animals to visit and enjoy, which symbolized the beaver's good nature. The town market, built by Bronson's ancestors, is the place where all the animals in the community could work, shop, and thrive together, which represented being cooperative. And although Bronson was well-meaning in his actions, his somewhat stubborn and selfish choices created a major crisis in the story for him and his family and friends. But I'm getting way ahead of myself because I wouldn't have learned any of this stuff about beavers if I hadn't discovered that I had a real beaver as a next-door neighbor. Now I know what you're thinking. Cool, he lived in the forest near a real beaver pond and had a beaver as a neighbor. But that's not exactly how it was. But I was living in this building at the time, named Highlands Lodge, and one day when I was parking my car outside, I looked up and spotted something very unusual. It was a big round mound of brown fur grazing around in a grassy area just behind the building where I lived. And yep, it turns out I had a beaver living in my own backyard. His home must have been tucked away somewhere along a little creek that ran behind the building, which was hidden behind a thick layer of trees and bushes. And then not too long after discovering my new neighbor, out for a walk one day, I discovered something that would further prove that my new neighbor was in fact a beaver. I spotted this on my morning walk along the same creek, but in a different area. This is a young cottonwood sapling that had been gnawed down by a beaver. And then the next morning, it looked like this, where you can see the beaver return that night to get the top half of the tree, because beavers have powerful front teeth to cut down trees and plants so they can use them for building materials and for food. And here's a look from the other side, but this next photo is what impressed me the most. The determination the beaver had to climb this steep rocky slope with their short legs, plump bodies, and webbed hind feet just to get this little cottonwood tree sort of blew me away. And this unique personal experience was definitely one of the first things that inspired me to write the book about beavers. Around the same time I discovered my new neighbor, PBS was airing a great documentary about beavers called Leave It to Beavers. And I remembered being fascinated and glued to the TV watching it. I think mostly because I had just discovered one of these animals myself. But then it happened. Just before the show was about to end, the narrator said 3 things that struck me and would further inspire me to want to create a story about beavers. The first thing they said was, during the freezing cold winter months, beavers are often not alone. Inside their lodge are lodgers. And in the documentary, they show a muskrat couple sharing the grass and branches that the beavers supply, as well as frogs, insects, and mice taking refuge in their lodge. Then they said, it's quite a hotel to run all winter. And then finally they said, beaver with their lodges and food pantries in the winter support the whole community. And after that, the big idea for my book immediately popped in my head. I imagined a family of beavers who ran a famous bed and breakfast lodge and made the best pancakes in the world. And that was the idea that inspired me to develop and write the story that would eventually become Bronson Beaver Builds a Robot. But before I could develop or write the story, I needed to do lots of research. And my go-to source for learning in-depth information about any subject is always reading books. And let me tell you, there's a lot of books about beavers to choose from. Feel free to count them out loud with me.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30.
Wow. There's 30 different books about beavers I could have used for my research. And that's not even all of them. Now, I didn't get to read all these books, but I definitely have several on my want to read list. However, there are 2 of these great books that I read completely, which helped me learn lots of great information about beavers. And just for fun, let's see if you can guess which 2 books I'm talking about. Okay, drum roll please. Well, if you guessed In Beaver World by Enos Mills and Eager by Ben Goldfarb, you are 100% correct. In Beaver World was written over 100 years ago by Enos Mills, who was the founder of the Rocky Mountain National Park, and the other was a more recent award-winning book titled Eager by Ben Goldfarb. And both took me on an amazing adventure inside the world of beavers. And then the final piece of inspiration came from going on a couple field trips during the summer months. On one occasion, I traveled to Washington State and had an amazing breakfast at a famous old Nature Lodge hotel, which gave me the pancake breakfast idea. And then, while taking a nature walk around Estes Park's Bear Lake in Rocky Mountain National Park, I got the inspiration for the location of Beaver Valley in the story. So I learned a lot about beaver and gained inspiration from a variety of different ways, including from firsthand experience, having a real beaver for a next door neighbor and getting to see their work in person, watching videos, reading books, browsing websites dedicated to beavers, and going on inspirational field trips. And all this research helped me better understand beavers in many ways, which helped me create more interesting and authentic characters and setting. So I thought I would briefly share just a few of the cool facts that I learned about them. So beavers are famously known for being one of nature's most ingenious engineers. Their most famous inventions are their dams, which help them form their ponds, and the ponds are where they build their lodges to live in and keep them safe from predators. And beavers are also good at digging canals, which are little waterways that they use to travel away from their ponds to get more trees and then float the heavy branches back to the pond for food and building materials. This is the reason why I made Bronson a brilliant inventor.